I was talking fantasy football with my friends the other day. Alan, Bravo. Echo. November. Tango. On. Fantasy football. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Bent on Fantasy Football. We're here in the dungeon. I am your host, Alan Bentley. This is your co-host, Josh Worley.
Hey, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. We got a special episode for you guys today.
Yeah, Thanksgiving. So, first and foremost, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope you guys have a great dinner tomorrow, or actually, by the time you're seeing this, it'll be today. Hope you have a great dinner. And, oh, what's that?
It's a turkey.
What is that? Dinner's ready.
Yeah, he's making somebody's dinner.
All right. Awesome. So we want to talk about this week's games a little bit. But before we get to that, we're going to do what we do every week. We're going to tell you about our beers. Josh, what do you got for a beer?
I got a special beer this week, and this goes out to a guy in my league by the name of Simon.
Okay.
We have a 12-team Yahoo League, half-point PPR. Simon actually set a record this week, and yes, he had Jonathan Taylor, you could probably guess. He put up 217.38 points in a half-point PPR.
Wow.
Yes.
So Simon says... Okay. Better yet, Simon, here's to you. Maybe. When the sound effects kick in, it'll be here's to you. There you go. Some applause for you there. Awesome. All right. So anyway, enough with the sound effects for right now. I guess we're kind of dead in the water on that. So
what's your beer, by the way?
My beer is, we want you to if you like our channel, or like our channel if you like our cans.
Not the first time I've heard that.
So it sounds like a terrible pickup line.
I know, right? I know.
One I would probably have used when I was single. But anyway, So let's pop open a cold one. Join us. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Ooh, that's delicious.
Yeah, I remember my first beer. It was just about 10 seconds ago.
Yeah.
All right. So, we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff this week. First and foremost, I think we want to talk about what's got us bent. And the same thing's got Josh bent, it's got me bent.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago. There's been an epidemic among these multi-billion-dollar franchises, the front offices, of just lewd and lascivious behavior. I talked about Robert Sarver. As a Suns fan, this hurts me a little more than some other people. But as a sports fan, it should hurt you guys just as much. A new video surfaced this week. Robert Sarver, the Phoenix Suns owner. And, I was done talking about this. We were done talking about this until we watched this video just a little bit ago. And this is just absolutely disgusting. We're not gonna give you guys a link to the video. You guys can Google it yourselves, YouTube, whatever. But the language that he uses and the sexual connotations, the racist language is just completely and utterly disgusting.
And consistent with everything else we've heard from him.
Consistent with everything else that we've heard from him. Apparently now his wife is in on it. Other co-workers, other executives. The video, I'm going to give you guys a little breakdown. We're not going to get too much into it because I'm kind of sick about talking about this. And as a Suns fan, I'm no longer rooting for the Suns, so I'm coming over to the Bulls side. So,
all right.
Yes, Robert Sarver, you did that. But the video shows Robert Sarver with his big wig, rich buddies at a memorial service / roast of a former executive friend of his. And
now, keep in mind, too, at this roast, there was kids there.
Yeah, there was families there.
It really wasn't a roast, I guess. From what I understand, it was more of a memorial, a lighthearted memorial.
Yes.
Which was supposed to be kind of fun, not disgusting. Sarver took it to another level.
He took it to another level. You think you would have been watching an X-rated, posthumous Comedy Central roast. It was just absolutely disgusting. So, guys, check it out on your own. You'll see what we mean. But I'm done with Sarver. And the same thing that happened to Sterling needs to happen to him, and needs to happen quick.
Yeah. And what's his name from the Raiders too?
John Gruden.
Gruden, yeah. Same thing with him.
Absolutely.
They're all in the same category to me. The other thing that's got me bent this week, and this is kind of a lighthearted thing, is that we don't have enough Jim Rome on Sundays. We were talking last Sunday. This just occurred to me as you were talking, Josh, because I wasn't really listening, but I was just.
What's new?
But we need more Jim Rome. We were talking about it on Sunday. We love Jim Rome. We love his commentary. We love his thoughts. He always thinks outside of the box. We need more Jim Rome. That's what's got me bent.
He only comes on for about 5 minutes, from like 11:55 to 12, right at the end of the pregame show, and he gives his thoughts. And we need to hear more. Hey, clones!
Yeah,
we need to hear that.
Yes, we do. So, all right. So let's move on. Let's talk about what we got going on tomorrow. After all, tomorrow is Turkey Day, right?
Turkey Day tomorrow. Absolutely.
So, why do people keep shooting our turkeys?
I don't know, man, but
anyway,
there must be a shortage on turkeys. Everybody's trying to get their own.
So
we do have a lot of turkeys in this neighborhood, guys.
Yeah, we actually do.
We have tons. So
yeah, Thanksgiving we never starve.
That doesn't mean bring your shotgun and come over here and get one, but we do have lots of turkeys.
We're not going to tell you where I live.
Yes, I will later.
So tomorrow we've got a bonus game. Normally we have 2 games on Thursday on Thanksgiving Day, but this year we've got 3 games. We've got Chicago and Detroit. We've got Las Vegas and Dallas, and we've got Buffalo and New Orleans. Buffalo and New Orleans kind of new to this. Dallas and Detroit here every year playing on Thanksgiving. So let's start with the Chicago-Detroit game, Josh. Let's give a breakdown and let's talk about the spread and over-under, all that good stuff.
All right. Now that game is, even though I'm rooting for the Bears, that game is probably going to be the least exciting out of all of them, okay? It does have the lowest over-under, and for good reason, 41.5. The Bears are favored by 3.
By 3?
By 3.
Wow.
So
that's not bad for playing a team
that's 0-9-1.
0-9-1.
Has a half a win. So
maybe my big prediction this week should be that they tie with Chicago, and that way they get their record back on a screw.
Oh
Chicago.
God, they better not, because I'm going to be so pissed if there are any more ties. You guys know how I feel about ties in the NFL and sports in general. So. Dalton's going to be in, so, I mean, I don't know, he kind of energized that passing attack last week.
Yeah, but, it always happens that way. The starting quarterback goes out, they have somebody come in mid-game, and there's a flash, there's a little bit of a spark there, and then it kind of fades away. I'm expecting it to fade away. Now, being that they are playing Detroit, which Detroit is absolutely atrocious at every aspect of the game.
They are.
I kind of think the Bears are going to pull this one out and get a win.
I do too. As far as fantasy relevance goes, my thoughts are there's really only a few guys you can really count on in this game. Mm-hmm. TJ Hawkinson, I don't think so. I really don't like this week. However, I do like Swift. Mm-hmm. I like Montgomery a little more each week since he's been coming back. And Mooney. I mean, Mooney is starting to really break out as that number 1 receiver. What are your thoughts on some of the fantasy relevant plays?
Well, I'll tell you this. Mooney, you left off with Mooney, so I'll start with him. Mooney gets out there. He runs like crazy. They have figured out that he can outrun a lot of guys. I mean, it only took him, 10 games of the season to figure that out?
Yeah.
But they figured out that he can outrun a lot of guys. So fantasy relevance, I think Mooney's going to be a good play this week. I think David Montgomery's going to be a good play this week. TJ Hawkinson, I'm a little on the fence on. Jared Goff is even playing this week.
I think it's still Tim Boyle.
Doesn't matter.
But we'll have to
He's
see.
Fantasy irrelevant anyway. Who cares? Doesn't even matter if he plays. If you have him on your team, drop him. Don't even just bench him. Just drop him.
And if you do have him on your team, shame on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially at this point in the season.
Right. So, really, Swift. I know you said you're not big on Swift this week.
No, I am big on Swift.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
okay, I got him backwards then. I don't know that I would be that big on Swift this week. I don't think. I think the Bears are okay against the run, and I think okay enough is going to be enough to stop Swift.
Okay.
I don't like Swift, but fantasy relevance, there's not really a whole lot other than those 6 players going. So
Those 3 players.
No, 6. We got Swift, Goff. I said Goff.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, Goff, yep. And we got Hawkinson.
Yes.
We got Montgomery. Do I need to list all of these? I mean, is this really...
Montgomery, Mooney, that's 5.
Okay.
And who's the 6th?
Anybody else? Oh, maybe Cole Kmet. Maybe
the Comet can come through.
The Comet,
so
yeah.
I hope so. I hope so.
Cole Comet. But anyway, from a fantasy perspective, there's not really going to be a lot of things going on with this game. You might see some points on the Chicago side. You might see maybe a couple defensive points, probably some pickoffs, fumbles, that type of thing. But I wouldn't expect a whole lot.
And as far as skill position players go, I don't think either team's gonna put up a lot of points. So This could be a 17-14 game.
Now that we've determined that both of those teams suck, let's move on to the next team.
Okay.
So Las Vegas and Dallas.
All right, that's a 3:30 game. That game I'm pretty excited for, actually. That game could be a shootout. That's a 51.5 point over/under. Dallas is favored. They're at home, 7.5. I actually have 2 guys going in this game. There's a lot of fantasy relevant players going in this game.
Yes.
I mean, you got both quarterbacks. Okay, especially in a shootout game like that, you got Carr and Prescott. You know, either one of them could be a viable option. I do like Prescott more. And then you got Zeke. Now, CeeDee Lamb, we don't know if he's going to play 100% or not. It looks like leaning toward playing, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Okay. And then you got Hunter Renfrow, who's really come on, not to mention Waller. So this game, I think, is going to have, there's a lot of people are going to have players in their lineups for this game. It's going to be the most fantasy relevant out of any of them.
This game's going to be a shootout.
A shootout.
Absolutely. I mean, sheer volume on the Las Vegas side always dictates that there's starting players available. Hunter Renfrow, you've got, just a ton of players. Dallas, that's the key to this one. Dallas has got a mediocre secondary. So given the quantity of pass attempts,
that's actually pretty generous to say. Right now.
Given the quantity of pass attempts that Las Vegas goes with every friggin' week, I'm going to say that Las Vegas is going to have a huge score. Dallas, on the other hand, I know you're liking the shootout thing, and I do too. I just don't think it's going to be quite as close as the 7.5 spread. I think Dallas is actually, this is not my bet prediction. I'm not calling this one. I'm just saying I don't think Dallas is going to cover that spread.
Okay.
But we'll see. On the Dallas side of it, we've got Ezekiel Elliott. We've got CeeDee Lamb. He's looking like he's going to play this week. It doesn't look like anything's setting him back.
If he doesn't, however, there's a guy we've been talking about, Cedric Wilson. Pick him up if you can. He could be a huge play if CeeDee Lamb is out.
He had a drop last week, but they were looking for him.
That wasn't a drop. That was a monumental drop. That would have been a 62-yard touchdown catch.
Well, he had a couple drops then.
Yeah.
Outside of that is what I was talking about.
But,
But I mean, they're looking for him. So he's definitely a target in that offense. That offense is all healthy right now, so the house of cards stands. Right?
It does.
So I think you're right. I think it will be a shootout. I just don't think Dallas is going to cover that 7.5 point spread.
Okay. Now that being said, I like more points fantasy wise if it's a closer game. Of course you're not going to run the clock out. So I agree with you. I think Vegas will cover that spread. That's not my bet prediction either, by the way. I think they'll cover the 7.5. We were talking about it earlier. With as many extra points that have been missed, that extra half point in the NFL right now is huge. So, we both expect good fantasy numbers out of that and closer game than a lot of people would think.
Yep. All right, so let's move on to Buffalo and New Orleans. This is kind of cool because these two teams aren't generally, like I said before, aren't playing on Thanksgiving, or if they are, it's very few and far in between.
Right.
So we get the bonus game this week, 7:20 game. The spread on that one is Buffalo's favored by 6. The over under is 45.5. So what do you think, Josh? What do you see for this game?
That it really depends on which Buffalo team shows up.
Does.
It
absolutely does.
If it's a Buffalo team from a couple weeks ago, then there's no way in heck that they're gonna cover that 6 points or even come close to that 45.5 over under. If it's the Buffalo we've seen in the first half of the season, there could be 70 points in this game.
Right.
50 just by Buffalo alone. So
it's so hard to call this one. I wouldn't even, if I was betting on it, I wouldn't take the over-under and I wouldn't take the point spread either. There's too many variables involved. Like you said, depends on which Buffalo team shows up. If the good Buffalo team shows up, it could be a huge, huge point total. If the bad Buffalo team shows up, it could be a huge point total for New Orleans only.
Yeah. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't see anybody fantasy relevant on the New Orleans side, especially with Simeon starting. I don't see any of those receivers. I don't like Troutman, Ingram. I don't see any of them as viable options. Now, on the other hand, Buffalo, you got Diggs, you got Dawson Knox, and, of course, Josh Allen, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL fantasy-wise. So
Zach
Moss,
yeah.
Singletary,
Yep.
You could throw in Cole Beasley there, but I don't see anybody on that New Orleans team as of any fantasy worth.
Well, and again, it's going to depend on which Buffalo defense shows up. Sometimes they're decent, sometimes they're absolutely atrocious. It really depends on who shows up. Fantasy wise for New Orleans, I might say Ingram maybe. Ish.
That would be it, though.
That's kind
I'm
of
not
a stretch.
starting Trevor Simeon in any format. So
it's kind of a stretch, but either way, fantasy wise is one thing, but then in the real game, I think it's going to be a high scoring game if Buffalo shows up. I think New Orleans is going to put some points on the board, but I just don't see it being any one player standing out. I don't see anything really big happening with fantasy wise.
Yeah, neither do I.
But all right, well. I guess we're done for this week then. All right. Have a great week, guys. Take care now. We're not done? Oh.
We're not done.
All right. So, you want to run through some...
So those were the Thursday games. Yeah, we want to run through... There's some really key matchups coming up this weekend. And they're all on Sunday, actually. So they're all... Most of them are division games. And they really have a lot of playoff implications, division standing implications. So there's 5 games we're going to break down for you guys. There's a couple noon games. The first one we want to look at is Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati, if they win this game and Baltimore loses, keep in mind, they're going to be tied for atop that division. It looked like Baltimore was going to run away with that, as of about 3 weeks ago, and that's not how it happened. But right now, Cincinnati is a 4.5-point favorite, okay? They sit in 6-4 in Pittsburgh. I hate reading this 5-4-1. I hate that. I hate reading that one.
It's the one that really gets you.
It's the one that really gets me. Yes. But not only, Cincinnati, if they win, they could tie for the division lead, but Pittsburgh could be right up there as well. They could be a game behind if they can somehow find a way to win this game.
Well, and this is a great game for both of these teams to get their offense on track. They've both been spotty. They've both had their moments. They both, had great plays, great games, and then horrible games this season. This is a chance for both of these teams to actually make a name for themselves with some respect behind it.
Yeah.
I don't know. 5-4-1, and 6-4. I don't know how both of these teams got to that point, to be honest with you. The inconsistency's just been terrible for both of them.
It has.
It's 4.5-point spread. Cincinnati's favored by 4.5 points. I'm surprised it's not closer than that, to be honest with you. I would expect it to be more of a 2-point, maybe even a 1-point spread.
If Ben is fully healthy, and he can get back to some of those deep throws and some of those, mid-range routes with accuracy, then yeah, I could see that game being a lot closer. But Ben Roethlisberger, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. He just hasn't been consistent with his throws. But that being said, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati always play one another close. It's always a competitive game. Now, Cincinnati did blow them out by a couple touchdowns when they were actually underdogs, which was one of our bet predictions earlier on in the season. But historically, that isn't how this matchup goes. So generally, it's going to be a close game. It could be 40-40, or it could be 6-3.
Right. Yeah, it'll definitely be a close game based on, like I said, again, we've talked about this a lot this season. Depends on which team shows up.
Yeah.
It's the inconsistency throughout the NFL this year has really been making me scratch my head. I don't understand why it's that way. I mean, you have your horrible teams like Detroit, and then you have your really good teams like pretty much everybody else. But this year it's been hit and miss on both of them. So really, I think who are you going to pick for a winner on this? And this is not our bent predictions. We're not calling this one, but just on a whim, who do you take?
I like Cincinnati. And as far as fantasy relevant players goes, I think Burrow could have a good bounce back week. You got the receivers, of course. I mean, you're going to start Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Pittsburgh side, I'm not too hot on Roethlisberger. You have to start Najee if you have him. Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely a volume back. And then Deontay and Claypool, I would say start them every week.
Well, Roethlisberger hasn't been exactly a fountain of fantasy points this year. So, unfortunately, because I really like Big Ben, but from a fantasy perspective, there's not much left there. I think this will be his last season.
I do too.
I think if he has a chance to break out a little bit, I think this will be the week to do it. But I don't see a whole lot of fantasy points on the Pittsburgh side either. Obviously, like you said, Najee's going to be probably the focal point of their offense. Yeah. They've been hurt with some injuries this year with no Juju.
Bad juju's worse than no juju.
It is. We've said this many times, and it's very true. Bad juju is worse than no juju. But
who do you think's going to win that game?
You pick Cincinnati, so I'll jump on the opposite side of that, and I'll say Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be close, though. I think it's going to be, like I said, within a couple points. I don't think that 4.5 point spread's gonna do it justice. I think it's going to be closer than that.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the next game is at noon. It's Tennessee and New England. Tennessee 8-3, New England 7-4. This will be a good one.
This will be a really, really good one. This isn't a division game. This is a conference game.
It is.
Now, we talked about inconsistent teams. Tennessee's about as inconsistent as they've been, as any team's been over the last 5 to 6 weeks.
Well, ever since they lost Derrick Henry, they've been very inconsistent.
Yeah. We saw them just completely shut down Kansas City on that Monday night game, and then they lost to lowly Houston last week.
Yeah. How does that even happen?
I don't know. Now, New England's been good as an NFL team. I don't see a lot of viable fantasy options on that roster, though. Mac Jones has been a very, very good quarterback, leading his team game flow-wise, but fantasy-wise, he just hasn't. Tennessee, A.J. Brown, of course, you got to start him.
Mm-hmm.
I like Tennessee, actually, to win that game outright, and I'll talk about that a little more when we get into our bet predictions.
Sure.
But then again, it depends on which Tennessee team shows up.
I'm picking Tennessee in that one too. New England's been pretty tough lately. They've kind of put their stuff together, and I think Bill Belichick's finally putting all the pieces together and trying to make the puzzle work. Fantasy wise, though, I just don't see a whole lot happening there either. Unfortunately, because there was a time when New England was the fantasy football points fountain.
When you had Brady and Moss that one year.
Yeah, I mean,
they both set records for
Brady and pretty much everybody.
Yeah,
Even with Cam Newton, they had some points, flowing a little bit. But yeah, it's just not. They're a good football team. They're just not a good fantasy team.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take Tennessee in that one too. The spread on that one's 6.5. I'm going to say Tennessee's going to blow out New England. As long as New England's defense crumbles like they have in the past, not the last few weeks, but in the past, like they have, I think Tennessee's going to blow them out.
Okay. All right. I like that pick. So we can agree basically A.J. Brown's pretty much the only viable fantasy option on either team.
I like Tannehill.
Tannehill, okay.
I do. I like Tannehill as a fantasy option. He's going to be, as you know, he's going to be your guy if your starting quarterback is up against a really bad matchup, or if he's out or he's on a bye or something like that. He's your guy, and I've been using him a couple times this year too. He kind of let me down last week, but I think he's going to rebound against against New England, and I think he's going to have a good week. So
okay.
I'd say A.J. Brown and Ryan Tannehill is probably the two fantasy stars.
Yeah, and nobody on New England. It's
yeah, I'm struggling with that because I like Mac Jones. I just don't see I just don't see him getting a lot of points.
No, and that's hard to say. Hard to find a team that has no viable fantasy players. And, they really don't. They're
Detroit.
Spotty. Yeah.
Detroit.
Swift. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to move on. We got a couple afternoon games on Sunday. We got a couple really good divisional games. The first one is the Chargers at Denver. Mm-hmm. Chargers are coming in at 6-4. Denver's at home 5-5.
Yep.
Chargers are a 2.5-point underdog. Now, keep in mind, or 2.5-point favorite. I'm sorry, Chargers are. Now, keep in mind, these teams, whoever wins this game, has the potential to either be tied or go one game down from Kansas City. And I mean, I think the beginning of the season, that was Kansas City's division. They were going to run away with it, blow everybody out, and it's just not happening.
Nope. I'm glad too.
I am too.
I'm tired of Kansas City dominating that division. I want to see somebody else rise to the top, and I think the Chargers are the team to do it.
I hope so.
It's a 3:05 game. They're playing in Denver, so I don't know what the weather conditions are going to be like either. Too, that's going to be a factor too that we have to take a look at. But I'm going to go.
They've actually had decent weather over the past week, but it can change in 2-3 days. So right. who the heck knows?
We're here in the Midwest, and it changes like hourly. Matter of fact, it's going to be 80 in about 10 more minutes.
Yeah, and then it'll be 20 in about 2 hours.
Yeah,
so.
then it'll snow, and then probably have a tornado or some crap.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
But anyway, so in that game, we have there's a lot of fantasy options.
Oh, there's a ton of fantasy options.
My favorite is that running back. You know who I'm talking about?
Austin Eckler.
Yeah, Austin Eckler. That's right. Yep. He's my guy. I like him. I think he's going to have a huge game. He had a big game last week. I think he had 4 total touchdowns or 5.
Yeah.
4 or 5 I don't remember it right offhand, but
wasn't quite. It was just he was the second leading running back scorer right behind Taylor. Not right behind Taylor, but a little behind Taylor. But yeah, he had a great week.
Yeah. So I see a lot of fantasy points coming up in that game on both sides of the ball too. I mean, in
oh my God, look at the options you have, man. I mean, you got Herbert. Yeah, he put up a 40-point game last week and a half point. Mm-hmm. You got Keenan Allen. Mike Williams, who I'm not necessarily high on this week, but he have a huge game any given week. And then you got Eckler, of course.
There's Courtland Sutton.
Judy.
I did say Sutton.
Sutton, yeah.
Courtland Sutton.
Sutton. Yes.
Courtland Sutton.
And Judy, who we both love. Yeah. And then you have that two-headed running back.
Loves a strong word.
Loves a strong word. You do love Fant, though.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Then you got Fant, and then that two-headed running back in Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. So.
No way he's not scoring this week, I'll tell you that.
I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for that.
I apologize for me, too. But
so there's almost 9 to 10 good fantasy options, reliable fantasy options.
And the Chargers defense has kind of fizzled over the last few weeks.
They have.
Last several weeks, actually. What started out as a really strong defense has kind of fizzled. So if you've got players from Denver, play them, start them, because that Chargers defense is not that great.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
All right, you want to move on to the 3:25 game?
Yes, and this is one of our favorite games.
This is a good one.
This is a really good one. It's not a division game. It's a conference game. Now, this game is a pick-em. So that means that the boys and girls out in the desert think that anybody could win this game in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
I think this game is going to be a shootout. I don't know what you think. Would you agree with that?
I think it's going to be a shootout for sure.
Okay, 3:25. We got the Los Angeles Rams coming in at 7-3, facing the Green Bay Packers coming in at 8-3. So you got basically 2 division leaders coming in. This has big implications for overall number 1, number 2 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, you got 7-3 and 8-3. If the Rams win this game, they're going to be tied, and then it's going to be head-to-head, and the Rams have the advantage because they beat Green Bay.
Yeah, they'll have the tiebreaker, absolutely. This game, I mean, talk about viable fantasy options. Both quarterbacks, I mean, are pretty much top 10 quarterbacks, or top 5 quarterbacks, I'll even, reach and say. You got Stafford, you got Aaron Rodgers. And then the running backs, I really, really like Dillon this week if Jones is out again.
Well, Jones, and that's an interesting thing that you brought up, too. We didn't talk about that before the show, but Jones, there's a possibility he may play this week. Okay. It's an outside chance. Don't quote me on it. Don't go put him in your lineup. And then if he doesn't play, you're calling me up and going, hey, Bent, what happened here? You said he was going to play. Don't do that. Don't do that, all right? I'm saying there's an outside chance he'll play. Now, that being said, it's a 325 game. It's a pick 'em. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this, right? Van Jefferson, you've got him. You've got, like you talked about, the running backs and the quarterbacks. Even if A.J. Dillon is starting, I still see some fantasy points coming there. I don't think the Rams defense is good enough at this point. I think they got the talent. I think they got all the players. I just don't think they're at a point where they're going to gel yet.
That's just mind-boggling how that defense, with the skill players that they have on that defense, they should just be dominating, and they're not.
And Von Miller will be back in the lineup. They're coming off a bye this week, so they've had an extra week to prepare for everything. That Green Bay defense is pretty tough, though. I got to say it. Being a Bear fan, it hurts me to say that, but the Green Bay defense is pretty tough. They may run into some problems on the through the air, which again, we go back.
Well, you got Cooper Kupp, who's the number 1 overall wide receiver. Right. You got 15 targets a game going to him.
They got 3 strong wide receivers. If they had Robert Woods still in the lineup, it would probably make a big difference. But they don't, so we won't talk about that. So they've got Henderson, they've got Van Jefferson, they've got ODB, they've got OJB.
OBJ.
He
is an ODB though, so.
Never mind. Anyway, you've got Odell, and you've got Kupp. So I mean, there's a lot of things that the Green Bay defense has to look for.
And they've been going to Higbee more often, so he's seen his targets slightly incline. So
sit Higbee. That's my fantasy advice for you. That's not it's not part of my start 'em and sit 'em though. You can go onto the website and look at that. We have them posted up there already. But Higbee's a sit in my book.
Okay.
I don't like him this week. I think the short
dump.
Well,
I'm not going to buy your book, so.
Oh well, hey,
so
you
there
know
you
what?
go.
All right, you know what? I have a book for sale. I didn't even know that.
Yes.
Anyway.
And then on Green Bay's side of it, besides Devontae and besides the running back, who else do you think would be a good fantasy option? I kind of like Scantling again. Valdez Scantling.
I like Alan Lazard.
Okay.
Not just because he has a cool first name either.
And not because his last name sounds like Lizard either?
No, well, partially, but not completely. I like Lizard because did our camera just move? It totally just moved.
My foot moved it. I'm sorry.
Stop. Jeez. Anyway.
Got that restless leg syndrome sitting here, so.
I like Alan Lazard this week. The reason I say that is because they have Von Miller on the Rams now. He'll be kind of up to speed somewhat on the defense. But I think Lazard's going to be the odd man out. I think they're going to be looking at Scantling. They're going to be looking at Adams. I think they're going to be doing all this other stuff. But
Tunyon, the running backs out of the backfield.
Right. Ton of targets also. So I think Lazard's going to be the guy. He's got speed, and he's not one that drops the ball a lot. So I'm seeing some fantasy points out of Lazard. So if you got Lazard this week, you might want to think about starting him if you got him.
Okay. What's your pick on that game as far as who's going to win that game and in what type of fashion? You go first, and then I'll give you my input.
All right. Here's what I think is going to happen. And I know what you're going to pick already. We didn't even talk about this before the show, but I'm picking Green Bay to win that game. The reason is because they've got all the targets, and I think that Rams defense isn't quite there yet with Von Miller not completely up to speed yet. I think that Rams defense isn't quite there yet. They will be by the end of the season, but I think Green Bay's going to pull that one out. And I'll even go one farther for you. I say Green Bay wins by 7.
I'm going to go one further. I'm going to say they win by 2 touchdowns. I
You're
really
picking
like
Green Bay?
I really like Green Bay in this game.
Are you kidding me?
Yep, I told you the Lambeau Field home field advantage. Aaron Rodgers is really starting to play much better.
Hold on. Stop this. Hold on. Because you've been sucking on the LA Rams teat all year long.
I have.
And now you're talking Green Bay's going to beat them?
I do think Green Bay is going to beat them.
I need an explanation.
The inconsistency of the LA Rams team. I mean, one week they'll come out and they'll beat an Arizona team by 2 touchdowns, and then they'll come out and they'll lose to a mediocre team. And I just don't see them winning in Lambeau Field.
So what you're saying is you're picking them because I picked them. That's what I heard.
No, I'm picking them to win by 2 touchdowns. You're picking them to win by 1. So, but I think this is going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a very, very high scoring game.
He's got a one better me, doesn't he? All right. Well, I tell you what, we'll find out on Sunday at 3:25.
Now watch the Rams win by 28. So
we'll find out at 6:25, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the Sunday night game. Cleveland and Baltimore. Now this one's going to be a real doozy. There's so many question marks here. Again, Cleveland. Which defense is going to show up? Is it going to be the good Cleveland defense? Is it going to be the bad one? Is Lamar Jackson going to play? He was in practice on Wednesday in a limited fashion, so we're still up in the air on that one.
I think that's the biggest question mark for me. You know.
Yeah. So 3.5. Baltimore is favored by 3.5 points. So even the people in the desert are saying, I don't know, it's going to be close.
Yeah. And this has huge division implications as well. If Baltimore loses and say Cincinnati wins, like we talked about earlier, they could be tied for first.
Yeah, I didn't get an update on Marquise Brown. Have you heard anything?
I didn't. It looks like he was upgraded from out to questionable earlier today.
Okay.
So as of right now, it looks like he will be playing. Don't quote us on that because anything can change in 3 days. It happens a lot in the NFL. I don't think teams are practicing tomorrow, of course, because of Thanksgiving. So we'll see what happens after Friday practice. But as of right now, it looks like he is upgraded to questionable.
All right. Well, I actually absolutely hate that designation as
I know.
Questionable.
I do too.
What does that even mean? 50-50 chance. Okay. Great.
Well,
I could have told you that.
This year
either he's going to play or he's not. It
actually means about 95% chance they're going to play this year. So,
yeah.
But
50-50. Either he's going to play or he's not. That's your choice. So it's 50-50 all the time.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
So 3.5 points. What do you like on that? Do you like the 3.5 points or?
Well, and I'm gonna talk about the fantasy relevant players and my pick in this game, and I think you can agree with me. Everything hinges around if Lamar Jackson's going to play or not.
It does.
If Lamar Jackson plays, I think they'll easily cover that 3.5. If Lamar Jackson plays, I think a lot of those guys are going to get that boost up in fantasy value. If he doesn't play, a lot of those guys are possibly not even startable. They
drop to at least mediocre for
sure. They do to probably flex plays at best. And we're talking. Well, besides Mark Andrews, you have to pretty much start him every week. He's a top tier, but I think he does take a huge hit if Lamar doesn't play. Now, Marquise Brown, I will actually sit him if Lamar doesn't play. Okay, and I've been high on him all year now.
Is that because you have him on your team, or is that because you like him as a player?
I like him as a player.
Okay.
I have him on every team that I have, so and I made that clear from the beginning. Now, on the Cleveland side of things, they could easily win that game if Lamar doesn't show up. Okay. Shut up. As far as besides the running backs in Cleveland, it's really hard to pick a dependable receiver or tight end. Njoku will have a big game. Landry will have a big game. Baker will have a 300-yard game, and then he'll go 3 or 4 games without really doing much. So, viable fantasy options, really the Cleveland running backs, and that's it.
What about Uzuma?
That's Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah. What do you think about him? Since we're on that subject now.
He's a viable option. If you have a better...
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
Anyway...
Jerk. All right, tell me your thoughts on the Baltimore-Cleveland game.
Again, I think you're right. I think it all hinges on whether Lamar Jackson plays or not. What is his name, right? Lamar Jackson. Okay.
That is his name.
Okay. This just in, Vikings defensive end. We'll talk
Everson Griffin actually just exited his home after 14 hours. It wasn't necessarily a standoff, more of a negotiation with police.
Yeah, so I'll break off of this real quick, and we'll talk about this just because it warrants mentioning, just because it may have some impact on the Vikings defense. But he did make a phone call to 911 at about 3:30 on Wednesday morning, saying that there was somebody in his house and they were trying to kill him. A long story short, it turned out into, I guess, for lack of a better term, a standoff with him and the police. There was nobody in his house, but the police came to his house along with the team psychologist of the Minnesota Vikings, and they tried to get him to come out of the house. They weren't able to do that until just now. I received, as we're doing this, I received an alert saying that he did come out of his house. I'm going to let you guys Google that and get more information on that because it's not something that we probably should be talking about anyway.
Yeah, we don't have all the facts, and
we don't know.
We don't want to make assumptions. So
right. So anyway, going back to the Cleveland-Baltimore game, it hinges on whether Lamar Jackson plays or not. If Lamar Jackson plays, it's a different game by far. His scrambling ability alone makes it a different game.
Absolutely.
If he'd have played last week against the Bears would have got blown out.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the odds makers were planning on too until they wound up him sitting. He was back in practice. I think I said that in a limited fashion today. If he is in the game, I'm expecting Baltimore to come home big.
Absolutely.
I think they're going to come up big on points, and I would pick Baltimore to win that game. If he doesn't play for some reason, I'm going to say that game's going to be a really, really tight game, and I think Cleveland will win.
I agree with you. What do you think about
I changed my mind. I think Baltimore will win.
What do you think about the value of the fantasy players with or without Jackson?
Actually, Elvin Kamara's been ruled out too, by the way.
Nice. We just got the alert. So
I'm sorry. Say it again.
Do you agree or disagree with me on the fantasy implications of the Baltimore players without Lamar Jackson?
I do. But I will say this. I think it's a total bust if he doesn't play. If he does play, it's complete opposite.
Okay.
I don't think there's any one person that's going to still thrive without him.
Okay.
Look at last week.
Yeah.
Without him, I mean they were terrible.
They were. And just to give you guys a heads up, Alan and I looked before that, the line movement, before that game started, when Lamar Jackson was ruled out, that line had opened at 6.5, Baltimore favored early on in the week. And by game time, it was down to 1 point. Now, for a line to move 5.5 points, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
So that just shows you how much the experts and the analysts value Lamar Jackson in that offense. Not only that, but the over-under went from 46.5 all the way down to 41.5. So we're talking about...
That's a huge jump.
That's a huge jump. That's 5 implied points that Lamar Jackson is almost directly responsible for. And that point differential really trickles down.
Directly or indirectly responsible, either way, you can look at it, because, he's either a pass or he's going to be running, And, So, he accounts for a lot of that offense, as you know. But I think everybody on Baltimore, I think they take a nosedive without him, and I think they stand up and stand proud with him.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
So 7:20 game, 3.5 point underdog. Baltimore's a 3.5 point dog, or I'm sorry, 3.5 point favorite. Again, I take Baltimore if Jackson plays. I take Cleveland if he doesn't.
Yeah, same here.
All right, so on the Cleveland side of the box, I don't know that I talked about that too much.
Okay.
Other than just joking about Uzama. But anyway, I don't see a whole lot happening here. I like Baker Mayfield as a potential point getter. It really depends, again, and I know I say this a lot, but it's the truth. Depends on which Baker Mayfield shows up, which offense shows up. It's bad because some weeks he'll be fantastic, and other weeks he'll be just absolutely terrible. Baltimore's defense, not great. I mean, they're not horrible, but they're not great. They're middle of the road, and definitely beatable. The Bears could have beat them last week.
They should have beat them last week.
They should, yeah. And actually, they should have. They scored too fast at the end of the game, but they could have, and Cleveland can beat them too. And of course, we got the chubby in the backfield. Did I say that?
Yes, I like Chubb as well.
Chubb, yeah, that's his name. I thought it was Chubby. Anyway, moving on. No, but so there are some fantasy points on the Cleveland side of the ball. And I think you're right, Njoku. I think he's going to be going to have some good carries, and I think he's going to have some yardage. Touchdown wise, I don't know.
He's a hit or miss. He's a boom or bust pretty much every week, and that's I don't like him as a viable fantasy option unless you don't have anything else.
As you guys probably noticed, there's not a whole lot of times when I say I don't know about a player because I don't know. I usually have an opinion. It's black or white for me most of the time, but in this case, I really don't know. He could have a big game. He could have a terrible game. It's completely up in the air depending on what happens with Baltimore's defense.
Right.
So, all right. Whoa. What else we got?
We got, bet predictions.
bent predictions.
All right.
Let's get our bent predictions out.
All right. Do you want me to go first, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
First game. This game we talked about a little in our divisional in our conference matchups. That's Tennessee and New England. Tennessee's coming in 8-3. New England's at home 7-4. They're a 6.5-point underdog, but if that Tennessee defense shows up, the same team that really dominated Kansas City, and I think they have that potential. They're starting to really come around, even though they lost to Houston last week. I like Tennessee to not only cover that 6.5, but to beat them straight up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my first. I got a second one too. Indianapolis and Tampa Bay. I mean, both teams can score like there's no tomorrow. I think they've shown that over the past couple weeks. I love the over 52.5 for Indianapolis and Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, look, everybody agrees with
yes.
you. Wow. Huh.
All right.
So let's talk about my bent prediction.
All right. What you got?
I think the Seattle-Washington game is the one that I'm going to make my prediction on. Now, I looked at the point spread on this, and I got nothing with that. So we're going to go with the over-under on this. The over-under is 46.5 points. I'm going to go with the over on it.
Okay.
Now, the reason I'm going with the over on it is normally I would say Seattle's going to score most of those points, right? I don't think that's going to happen. I think Terry McLaurin is going to come off.
And Heineke's been looking better.
He has.
He has been looking really good.
He has. And I think the chemistry between him and McLaurin is going to be something pretty substantial before the end of the season.
Oh, yeah.
Not that Washington's going anywhere this year.
I think it's starting to get pretty substantial now, man.
Yeah.
It's looking really hot.
Yeah. So I'm going with the over on that one. And I think Washington's going to be a major part of that. I think the score is going to be pretty close to even, to be honest with you. But what is the spread on that game? Do you know right offhand?
I can find out. I think it's Seattle minus 6.
I think you're right, 6 or 6.5.
I'll double check though. Hang on.
Yeah, so that point spread's too close for me.
Never mind. Washington -1.
Oh,
it's,
-1.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right. We were thinking of something else.
Okay.
And that one we were really shocked with, that Washington is a 1-point favorite, even though they're at home. Washington is not that great of a team. They can score, but their defense just can't stop anybody.
Well, and the thing is, look at what Seattle's done the last couple of weeks. Nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the problem. You know, they were Wilsonless before, and now they're Wilsonful, and they're still not scoring any points.
Wilsonful. Oh my God, I love the words you make up.
I know. I have my own vocabulary that I my own dictionary.
Yeah, Seattle screwed me in my bet prediction last week. I picked them to win over Arizona straight up, and they got killed. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's our bet predictions, and I think that's going to be pretty much it for this week.
Yeah, I think unless you got anything else, Alan?
I got one more thing.
Okay, what's that?
Hey, that's my turkey. Don't shoot that. You son of a...
Oh my God. It's all these damn turkeys in the yard.
All these dead turkeys now.
All these dead turkeys.
At least 4 of them out there now. All right. Well, hey, on a serious note, you guys have a great Thanksgiving. We really want you to enjoy some time with your family and friends, and make it a good one. No day is promised to anybody, but Thanksgiving is a great day to spend that time with your family.
Absolutely, guys. Happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, and don't forget, get bent
on fantasy football. Are you gonna do this?
No. Should we just keep rolling?
You're gonna make. No, just turn it off.
You want me to stop it now?
Yes.
All right, I'll stop it. There we go. We stopped it. There we go. What are you doing?